Hi, and welcome to howtorunahomedaycare.com. My name is Jana, and today's video is going to be making flower fairies for springtime. So this is my spring tree branch that I put on the nature table once spring has sprung, and I have these little flower fairies that are decorated, the tree's decorated with, and today I'm going to show you how to make them. So there's a couple different varieties. And you don't have to hang them if you don't want to. You can see that this little one is just one that stands by itself. And I have two different sizes here. I made a larger version, so hopefully it'll be easier for you to see on the video with me making a larger one. So this is the size I'm going to be making today, but you can adjust it to whatever size you want at your house. Okay, so we are going to be making a purple one today. So each flower has a different flower fairy. And you're going to need some stuffing. You're going to need nylon or some kind of tone of skin color for the face. And you're going to need some felt for the dress and some wool roving for the hair. So let's get started. I make a ball for the head. It's about an inch wide. And I put it right into my nylon. Just scrunch it up there, make a neck, and then I take a pipe cleaner, which is 5 inches long, and I'm going to write all the measurements down on the website for you if you want to make the same size that I'm making today, but really you can adjust it according to the size that you want, so it doesn't really matter. Hopefully the proportions will be great. So there's the head and the neck and the arms. Okay. Then I'm going to take my little template, which again I will put on my website so you have the measurements. And I take my piece of felt. I'm going to fold it in half. So I have the back of the dress and the front of her dress. Put my little template on. And I put the template right at the top where the fold is. And then you're going to trace around it with your marker, and then you're going to cut it out. So this is what it will look like. And because my cutting job isn't too good, you can still see the marker around the edge. So then I just flip it inside out. And that way the marker will be hidden on the inside of her dress. But if you're careful, that won't happen for you. So you're going to cut it out, and then you're going to cut a little hole in the top. And that's going to be the neck hole. So you're going to take your head, there's your little neck hole. You take your head and squish your arms down and stick your fairy into her poncho dress at the moment. You're going to feed it through the neck hole. There you go. And then you're going to open up her arms again. And now that I've got her in here, I'm going to cut off some of this excess nylon that we don't need. It's kind of getting in the way here. There we go. So there's your fairy's head, and there's her arms. Now her arms are a bit big, but eventually we will put her hands on, and we will cut the arms so they're more proportional. Okay. So the next step is to grab your embroidery thread. It comes like this, and your embroidery needle, and not the end. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to hide my knot underneath my fairy so you can't see the ugly knot. And I'm going to secure her head on, because right now I find they're kind of wobbly. So I throw a couple stitches up her shoulder and into the side of her neck. That's barbaric, but I find it secures her head. It doesn't make her so wobbly. So I'm going to do that. You go ahead and do that at home. And after you've secured a couple of stitches, make her head a little bit more secure. We're going to work down the sleeve to embroider her dress. And I'm going to show you first what we're going to be doing before we go, so you have an idea of what the finished product is going to look like. Okay, there. Her head's on. Far more stable now. So let's look at the green fairy together. So what we're going to be doing first is we're going to start, now that her head's on, I'm going to work from the inside. I'm going to start here on her sleeve. I'm going to work up to her armpit, down all the way, and then the dress actually gets separated. This is great if you don't want to hang her. If you want her to stand, then she will stand by herself. So the dress gets separated and we embroider one edge all the way to the side. We do the embroidery, the embellishments if you want. And then we go up and we finish over here at this cuff. And then we'll get some new thread and we'll work back and do the ending side. So what I like to use is a blanket stitch, but you can use whatever stitch you're most comfortable with. And the one that the one that you like the best. So I'll show you how I do my blanket stitch. We'll get started and then just pause the video and finish up your dress, and then we'll come back together. Here, I'll flip this girl over so you can see it. Wait a second. I think I like this side of her head better. So I'm going to start on this side. So you're going to go down on the corner. There you go. See, I went on the bottom part. Down again. You pull, 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 pull. Whoops. Pulling one of her. Ah! Hold on, let's move this stuff to the side. There we go. I'm going to pull all the way, and before it goes tight, I'm going to take my needle, go up. And that's the first knot. And then I go up again. And before I pull it tight, I'm going to go up through that loop right there. And that makes the blanket stitch. So if you want to watch it again. And you pull it tight. So up, pull it just before it goes tight. Do your extra loop through here. Kind of tricky because we're in the armpit. There you go. So I'm going to keep going all the way down, down, down. I'm going to stop here and turn the video back on, so I'll show you how to do those embellishments if you'd like to add those to your fairies. So pause the video for a second and you keep going as well. Okay, so you finished sewing together your arm all the way down the fairy's dress, and then you stopped and just went around the front hem, and you're over on this side. Now this side just happens to be the side that I add the embellishments on to my fairies, but really you can do them wherever you want, wherever you want to. There's a couple. So I do little flower petals because these are my flower fairies, so you can do whatever. You can do suns or rainbows or whatever you feel is appropriate. I'll show you how to do these. So I'm at the edge here, and I'm going to go with my needle up, through, and then down. And then I'm going to take it again and go into the middle of the little flower star pattern and down. And I'm going to repeat that 5 times around to create a little embellishment. Or if you don't want an embellishment, they can just be plain. Whoops. Lost my thread. Hold on, pause. You can make these fairies as decoration for your nature table, or you can make them for your children to play with. I tell a story in the springtime about the nature table, about the flowers waking up, and so the fairy's job is each fairy, let's say it's the red tulip fairy, she comes along and she has her magic wand and she sprinkles her fairy dust on the tulips, and that's how she wakes them up. So they've been asleep all winter, and the fairy comes and she uses her magic fairy dust and she wakes them all up, and the kids really like that. They get a kick out of it. And then we often do a little activity of the children or the flowers that need to be woken up, and then some of them are the fairies that come along and wake them up. So there's your first little embellishment, and if you want to do another one that's a little bit smaller beside it, you can. I'm going to leave it like that for today because we're going to keep going with putting the two pieces of the dress together, and you're going to continue with your blanket stitch all the way up here and out to the end of the second sleeve. I'm going to pause the video there and you finish your dress. Okay, so we finished our fairy dress all the way up to the sleeve, and then I put my needle in her sleeve all the way down just so I can do a knot in the dress. You could do a knot right at the edge of the sleeve too if you wanted, but I like to hide the knots, so just find a little spot in here. Take a little bit of fabric and try your knot, and then it'll be nicely hidden. There you go. So you can cut that off. And we still have to do the back hem. With the second piece of thread, I'm going to do the back hem, and then we'll carry it up through the body and we'll use it to secure the hair, the hat, and the string to hang it on. But before we do that, we're going to give our fairy some hands. So for this fairy, I have these little wooden beads that are an appropriate size. I like to find a wooden bead that is smaller than the sleeve of the fairy, because I find if they're larger, they look weird. And I'll give you an example. This is one that as a child I know made. And it's fine too. It's great. This is another option for a hat too, a headband. But for my fairies, I like their hands to be smaller than the sleeves. So these are the sides of beads I have, or these guys have even smaller beads because they're smaller. And this one right here shows you, take a look at the yellow one on the table when you get a chance. And the yellow one, what I did is I just wrapped embroidery thread around the pipe cleaner. So that's another option too. If you prefer not to do a bead, you could do a number of things. You could do another pipe cleaner, or a different color bead too. So I just put a little bit of glue inside these beads, and then slide it on the hand. Ta-da! And then we're gonna cut off her extra arms because she looks a little crazy. There we go. And we'll just let those dry for a second while we get our thread ready for the bottom of our dress. So I use an arm span, a little more than an arm span, and that normally does it for the rest of the dress and her hair and her hat. So thread your needle again, and we'll finish off the bottom of the dress. So now that we have our thread, let's get started on the back end of her dress with the hem. So I can start at the corner, and I'm going to keep the same blanket stitch. All the way around. Really, you don't need to finish off the end of the dress like this if you don't want to. You could just leave it plain, as long as you secured the sleeves and the side down. It would look great too. It's totally up to you. That's why I like these fairies, because you can custom make them to your own preferences. So let's go all the way around the back, and then I'm gonna I'm gonna pause the video and do the rest of your hem, and I'll come back when I'm right over here, and I'll show you how to go up through the dress to secure the hair on. Okay, so we finished the back of the dress, and you're at the corner here, and you're going to stick your heel up through the body, all the way up through the head, oops, through the top of the head. All right, we're set. You could also knot it and just tie another one, but I'm lazy, so we're doing it this way. Okay, let's see, she's got something coming out of her head. And now you're going to use some wool roving for your hair. The roving comes carded, which has been sort of like, it's been combed. And so sometimes, see on this yellow fairy, it's smooth. You can see it's all been combed out. And sometimes, or I think it's also, this sheep isn't a curl. I don't know for sure, but I think it's this sheep isn't a curly sheep. And look at sometimes, it's all kinky and curly. And I think, I don't know for sure, but I think it's because that's actually the different type of sheep. It's like a curly haired sheep. And so often people use the curly haired ones for if you're going to add hair to any kind of a doll. So this is another guy with the curly hair. So this one's been dyed purple, and the curly roving is definitely more difficult to work with because it's crazy. It's just it's like these just dreadlocks. So I'm going to take a clump and I'm going to add it in sections. With the smooth roving, it's so much easier. You just take you always pull your roving apart. You never cut it. You just pull it apart. It breaks off. And with the smooth, you just break off a section and then you just attach the whole thing from the top. But the curly pieces, they're all bunched up. So I like to take them in littler sections and attach it onto the crown of her head. Let some hang forward as her little bangs. And so I'll do a little stitch to secure that piece on. And then I'm going to take another little section and I'm going to attach that one on here. And you will not be able to see the stitches of her hair at the end because we put hats on the flower fairy. So they have little hats. And you'll notice that some hats are bigger than other hats because I needed to hide more of the stitches. So you can have a full hat like this, like little flower petals with a stem. Or you could have little ones without a stem. Or you could just have, come look at this pink one. You could just have like a teeny kind of crowned one. Oh, it's up to you what kind of hat you want to make for your fairy, but it will work really well to hide these stitches. So I'm going to keep going, adding my next piece of hair to her head, and pause the video and get your hair secured on, and then we'll come back and I'll show you how to make the hats. Okay, she's got her hair on. So you can add it as thick or as thin as you want. I like to add lots of hair, lots of crazy hair. There you go. Actually, this is interesting too, how the purple, part of it's dyed different shades, and this even goes to white for this. This is just the roving that I happen to get, which is kind of cool. She's got her hair on. I still have the thread attached. So what I'm going to do is cut out a little flower and a stem, and I'm going to attach the hat right on there. Attach it on, and it doesn't really matter how you want your flower petals. Mine are always different. How many petals you have, the shape, doesn't matter, your choice. And I attach it right on there, and I secure it on each of the sides, on each of the petal. Push it down, and then the very last thing to do is to secure the stem on. I'm going to do that now. And when you secure it on, sometimes it looks nice if you kind of create some depth in your hat so it sits up, so it looks like, you know, her head is filled underneath. For this fairy, I did it quite tight. I didn't have a stem, and I think it looks funny. It looks like her head's too flat. So depending on how you like it, You can do it either style. So I'm going to attach my hat on, and then I'll show you the final step and your fairy will be ready. So I've come up through the hat as my first stitch, and then I'm going to go down again, and this time I'm going to come up with where one of the petals is. And then go back down again with that petal, and this time I'm going to go around to the other side, to this petal, secure that one down. And then I'll go back down on that side, and I'll go and do the back one. And you're going to do that one, and then you're going to do that. We'll pause the video, and then we'll attach our stems. So we've finished securing her flower petal hat on, and now our last stitch came up through the top, and we're ready to put on the stem. So I've cut a little piece of purple felt, and I've attached the stem right here. We're going to throw a stitch in there to secure it to the hat. So all of my supplies I purchased from either my local craft store or online. The hardest, this felt is easy to find at your craft store, along with the embroidery thread. Sorry, this stuff comes in squares. And the embroidery thread and the needles and just regular stuffing. And the little hands are all easy to find at your local craft store. But it's the wool roving for the hair that's a little more tricky to find. You have to go to either a craft store that sells specialty items for knitting and felting, or just buy it online. And I'll throw a link on to my post as well, and so you can read up about it and choose whatever supplier fits your needs. So I'm going to put a couple of stitches in to secure her little stem, and her stem is sitting up way too straight. I think when I did the green one, I cut it more at an angle. So we're just going to lop it off a little bit. Oh yes, so much better. I'm happier with that. Okay. And the last thing I needed to do was I needed to put a couple more stitches in her hair, because it was just sitting out here. I wanted it to lie more flat on her back. So before I tuned in when I was doing the hat, I secured a couple of stitches to put her hair just to the back of the neck and to the back of her dress as well. So now it's sitting a little bit more flat, so I like that a little bit better. So what I'm going to do for the last stitch is pull it all the way up, and then take out my needle, and then this is the string I'll use to hang it, the flower fairy, up on my tree. I'm going to grab a little bit more stuffing, and you're going to stuff her dress to form a body. And that way, if you do want her to stand on a table, she will. Lopsided? That's okay, because then we're going to arrange the hands. Ta-da! I'm flying! She's ready. Now, here comes a decision. It's the Waldorf tradition to leave the face blank, which some people think is a little weird and creepy. So the Waldorf tradition is to leave it blank, because then the flower fairy's facial expression can change depending on if she's happy, or if she's sad, or if she's excited, or whatnot. So I leave mine blank. That's just what I like. But if you want to add some eyes and a nose and mouth or whatever, you can. My son suggested I put googly eyes on her, which is another option. So if you were going to add a face, of course I would recommend you do that way at the beginning when you just had the head. You could just do a little stitch here, kind of like how we did the embellishment and a little mouth if you wanted to. So there you go. Happy spring! Ta-da! I hope you enjoyed this video on how to make a flower fairy for your spring nature table. I'm Jana from How to Run a Home Daycare. Please visit me again.